Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Barbells and Trails Podcast. I'm your host, Bret, back with episode 49. Yeah, 49. We're here. We're almost to the first year. Okay, so what's been going on with you guys? I wish every once in a while you guys could talk back to me, but here we are. I'm back. This week, I'll be honest, this is a kind of tossed together episode, just a little bit. Don't have anything in particular to go super in depth on, but I have a few talking points. So this week, recently, what's been going on? So I've been finally, I know I mentioned this, I don't know how long ago, I have been listening to Why We Sleep by Matt Walsh. Honestly, a very interesting book. It's a lot more complex than I necessarily thought. And basically everything I knew was kind of true about sleep. Like, there's definitely more, and he's going into depth. But, like, I knew to begin with that sleep was very, very important. And I had heard him talk before on the sense of sleep basically having a positive effect on everything in your body, both in your physical well-being, your mental, your emotional, just all of it. But this book is very, very interesting. He just goes into such depths of how he started to develop this and got into sleep science to begin with, and just the complex differences in sleep as we develop and get older, and circadian rhythms, and what is sleep. And it's kind of crazy to think about, because one of the things he talks about in the book is how basically until the past 60 years, we never really contemplated what sleep was as a evolutionary thing when it comes to people, and that it was just something that happened that we didn't necessarily have an explanation for or understanding of its purpose, besides the indication that we get tired, so we fall asleep. But other than that, we didn't really know what all it did. And he was kind of the first one to really, really dive in depthly into it. So it's quite fascinating. It's a very long book. I don't even know if I'm halfway through it, and I've been piecing it a little bit each day. And there's just so much information, and it just basically, it really does show the importance of sleep and how the lack of sleep, especially continuously, can have such detrimental effects on your overall well-being and health. And it's just kind of fascinating. I've always been one to try to prioritize sleep for the most part. I've definitely had days where I've lacked, and I think we all have. But the more he talks about the sleep in general, the more I understand like the causation behind it, and just like it's just wild. Like, basically you need to get 8 hours of sleep. Some people can do a little less, but he literally said that the amount of people in the human population, rounded to the nearest percentile, that can survive without any negative consequences of less than 6 hours of sleep is 0. And that kind of blew my mind when he said that statistic, and that sleep is just so important to absolutely everything, and how REM sleep and deep sleep differ, and how as we age, our circadian rhythm moves during adolescence, and as we age into adulthood and we get older, and how you lose the function to really get into deep sleep as you age. And that's a partial cause to memory malfunction as people get older, and their cognitive abilities, and how there's possible links to mental well-being, let alone possibly psychological diseases, partially when it comes to sleep, maybe possibly in development. That one was still kind of a toss-up, and I don't totally know when this book came out, but it was very interesting, just like everything that gets included when it comes to your sleep. And I've been trying to do better it is very hard for me to do well, at least trying to I can keep to a rhythm pretty well, but in all reality, my sleep pattern naturally is not what I actually do every day. And I'm not necessarily naturally an early morning person, but I'm typically trying to wake up at 5:30, and I'm probably going to bed at like 9:30, sometimes later. In all reality, I probably need to go to bed even earlier. And as someone that's 21, it's not normal for a 21-year-old to necessarily be going to sleep when they could possibly ending up in bed by like 8:30. But if I want to get the right amount of sleep, I kind of have to. So it's really hard to try to work around that. Weekends, a little different. I can make sure I get 8 hours of sleep elsewhere. But part of the reasoning is because I prefer going to the gym in the morning, and when I'm supposed to be at work and everything, the only way to do that is basically get up that early. And I know other people that are like, oh, why the hell do you go to bed so early? That's ridiculous and stuff. And it's like, well, you also don't get up till almost 7, so you're already getting more sleep than me, so you can go to bed later than me. It's just kind of that give and take. But it's just so fascinating. Recently, I've been listening to a lot of stuff from Max Lugavere. Man, I knew I was gonna mess this up. Lugavere. Sorry, Max Lugavere, I believe. I might have mentioned him sometime in the past, but I've been listening to his podcast, The Genius Life, and I listened to him when he was on Rogan. I never really looked into his podcast, but I was like, you know what? I really need to get into this just a little more, and I decided to. I've listened to probably like 6-7 episodes the past week, and it's been so fascinating. So this man basically focuses on nutritional well-being and health, and mainly how nutrition can have such an impact on your health, well-being, mental capabilities, and all these things. Basically, if you do your nutrition properly, your food is your medicine, practically. And I mean, it's kind of wild to think about, especially the American diet and how I was raised. And learning more and more stuff, I'm like, man, I really wish I was not raised the way I was. I wish I was further ahead in this category than I am personally. And in all reality, in the past 2 to 3 years, I've learned more about the human body than all the information my parents have combined. And it is kind of wild to think about that, but it's really changed my perspective on how I want to treat myself. Obviously, I'm not a model, and I'm definitely trying to lose a little bit of weight, but it's just wild to think about. And there's so much that I'm trying to change and optimize and add into my diet, and supplements I'm contemplating using, and certain things to try to boost my capabilities physically and just mentally, and all these things, and try to make myself run more smoothly. And some of the people he's had on, absolutely amazing. And some of the things I've learned is crazy. Like one woman had MS, and she basically was able to reverse her disease through the study of nutrition and how to properly but properly supply herself with the nutrients she needs. And that how basically, like, today it's like everybody is probably nutrient deficient in America in particular, and that it's only gotten worse over time as soil has become depleted from the minerals and nutrients we need just from over farming and monocrop farming. And it's just wild. I've heard some of the statistics before, but it's like the fruits and foods from the 1920s compared to today are completely different when it comes to the amount of nutrients in those fruits. And all of it is because the soil was so much richer in nutrients. And over time, we've just depleted it. And now the foods you eat, you have to eat 2 to 3 times as much to get the same amount of value from your food. And some of the people you talk to have literally been like, these certain things, these certain vitamins, these minerals, so important when it comes to your body's functionality. And that having these things done properly, it's like you can't have one without the other, because if you have plenty of this, but you don't have, like if you have your vitamin D, but you don't have K, it's not processed properly in your body, and your body can't utilize it to its full potential, and you can't actually make it available in your body or bioavailable. And it's like, if you're not taking care of yourself and getting the things you need, your body just does not function like it's supposed to. And he literally stated, when he was explaining how certain vitamins were very, very important, I think he was mentioning basically fat-soluble vitamins, but he was talking about vitamin D, A, K, and E, and how important they are to overall bodily function when it comes to the body. And so they're talking, and Max ends up asking him, so what kind of foods do people need to focus on to get these in their diet and optimize it? And he's like, who said they need to eat these foods? He's like, there is not a single person that is getting the full nutritional value they need and having a full balanced diet optimized the way they need to through diet alone without supplementation. He's like, today you cannot have a well-rounded diet with everything you need without supplementing in some form. And I was like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. And so in the past week, I went grocery shopping last weekend, so I had to think about things and the stuff I was trying to work on and realize what I need and buy, and how I want to change how I'm eating. And I've been doing way better. And compared, if you looked at me 3 years ago, the stuff I was eating and how I was treating my body to now is way better. But there's still so much more I need to do and learn. But like one of the first questions he asked one guest was, what are 3 things that people should try to cut out their diet if possible? And 3, I don't know what order this was in on like how bad, but he basically said cut out these 3. And it was grains, seed oils, and oh no. Why am I blanking on the last one? Grains, seed oils, and grains, seed oils. Shit. I'm sorry, guys. I'm blanking on the last one. I'm so bad. I'm having a brain fart. It's a little later for me, but basically those 2. There was one other, and I'm completely dumbfounded that I can't remember it. But basically saying that those are just absolutely terrible for you when it comes to inflammation and the things that are in it, and the compounds and what they do to your body, and they induce inflammatory responses throughout your entire system and all these different things. And it makes sense. I mean, I've heard some of this stuff before, and Max has talked about this, and it's just wild to think about, because some of those things are so iconic in the American diet. And he's basically saying that, yeah, all of that's terrible. Processed foods, all of it, like absolutely terrible. And it makes sense. But when I was growing up, it was never thought about. I looked at the nutritional system as the food pyramid, as these things. And all these things are basically lies that have been made and are practically propaganda by the food industry. And it's just crazy to think about and realize that you've kind of been taught the wrong thing your entire life. And it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's really made me think about how I want to treat my own body, what I want to put in it. Like it really teaches you that you are what you eat. And it was kind of crazy to realize, but it's like so true. Like there's a reason why this has been a like motto for years. But he talked about that, and then there was someone else I listened to, And they were talking about how rigged big pharma and big food is, and how so many of these foods cause these like terrible diseases, and that by like 2050, it's like 1 in 3 people are going to be diabetic in the United States at this point, projected. That like 93.7% of people in the United States have a high risk of, not high risk, but have worse like cardiovascular health, at risk of diabetes, pre-diabetic, like all these compounds, and like only almost 6% of people are considered like healthy when it comes to the US population, and how by 2030 it's like two-thirds of people are going to be considered obese, and it's just wild to think about. It really is. And I know that I was definitely obese at one point, and at this point I would still be considered overweight, but I'm slowly getting there. I am. The past couple of months I've been doing better. I've been using a dieting app. It's called the Coach app, or no, Carbon app. Sorry, what? And it's a diet coaching. It's like I'm finally cutting properly. I'm trying not to cut too quickly. I'm trying to cut very minusculely so that I don't lose any protein. I'm staying up on things, and I don't lose any lean muscle mass, because that's the worst thing you can do. When I've lost weight in the past, I've definitely lost lean muscle, and it's like I'm slowly having results. I haven't lost like 10, 15 pounds, but I've lost at least 4 or 5. But it's very gradual, but it is having a better impact, I feel like, on my body, where it's like now I'm not necessarily the lightest I've been by any means. I've been 10 pounds lighter before, but and that's closer to my lightest. But it's like at this weight, this is the leanest and strongest I've ever been. And so it's like I'm starting to take care of myself slightly more and more, and realize the importance of nutrition. And it's the one thing I've let slack the most. Like when I first started exercising, that wasn't necessarily an issue. Not necessarily saying I did it a crazy amount compared to some people, but like I would exercise with Noah, wake up, we go do workouts, and we do some crazy stuff and a lot of cardio and resistance training and all these important things. But at the time I was not focused on diet at all, and I was still eating the normal way I was eating. And even the ways I thought I was being kind of healthy, I wasn't. And it's like slowly but surely I've gotten better and better over time, recognizing the falsehoods in the American food system, and how like big pharma just like basically people are dying longer is what he said. And it's like, it makes a lot of sense. It's like the healthcare system in the United States doesn't want you to die, but they don't want you to be healthy either. And it's like, well, that's not good. You would think that we have like the highest cost of Medicare in the world. And it's like, you would think we would want to make our citizens healthier, to both represent America better, because we are known as the fatsies. But then not only that it would lower the cost of healthcare, and maybe we could use that money elsewhere. Possibly, maybe help out other things for people. And that if you just had healthier people, it would make other things in society run a little smoother. But it's not prioritized. And in it, like when they're talking about like the processed foods, they even talk. They were like, I don't think this was made and done out of malicious intent. I think that the processed food industry started to grow back in the 40s and 50s as the world was still kind of struggling with food scarcity. And they were still kind of worried about not having enough food, dealing with the Great Depression not long before, and with a growing population, and trying to figure out how to handle food. And it started that way, and it just slowly got worse, and now it's become a part of the American society. And that there's actually been papers released saying that Lucky Charms are healthier for you than like cereal brands are better for you than steak or eggs and all these things, and have more nutritional value. And it's not true at all. And that pediatricians are pushing grains on young kids, and like that's not what you want to do by any standards. And people are having a lack of protein in their diet, and just like all these different things. And and not only that, but it's crazy to think about, but in our Medicare system, doctors don't spend like any time studying nutrition. So your doctor doesn't even have the information that's worthwhile to actually help you change anything in your health in a nutritional aspect, besides like eat more greens, eat more, like they'll just tell you eat more whole foods, exercise more. But other than that, they can't tell you how to do it. And in our reality, when you think that, it's sad. And it's just kind of like, you spend all this money for education. You're supposed to be the person I go to for help and to better my health. And you can't even answer some of the questions I have unless you Google it. And it's like, that's not great. You would think that there should be a more well-rounded version of this. And I think in a way, like, health is becoming more popular, at least in my eyes. Like, I feel like more people are noticing it and becoming aware, but it's still such a minority thing. And it's hard to change people. It really is. Like, there's so many people in my life that I wish would look into this more and focus on their health. Because for me, it's like, I don't necessarily want to live an extremely long life. Like, by the time I get to my grandparents' age, just the medical achievements alone could probably almost guarantee that unless I ruin my body over that time period, that I could probably make it to 90. A lot easier than my great-grandmother made it to 90. But it's like now, it's like if you actually take care of your body and you take care of your nutrition, it's like I don't necessarily care to be 100 or something. Like there's a possibility that in my lifetime, I'm going to see and witness people more often, possibly have people living over the age of 120. But that's not necessarily my goal. If anything, I just want to live to 85 or something and live a better life than I know my great-grandparents did, and not deal with diabetes and heart issues and be mobile and not fatigued and in a nursing home and barely being able to walk around. I want to have a better quality of life at an older age. It's not anything to do with necessarily living longer. That's not my goal. It's just to be able to live a better life at that age, not be in pain, and be able to be mobile and enjoy life as much as I possibly can when I'm that age. And like they talk, it's like sometimes it's not necessarily about your lifespan, it's about your health span. How long can you make your health like as optimistic as it can be? Because eventually it is going to deteriorate. There's really no stopping it just from aging. It's like age deteriorates all things. And so it's like it's going to happen, but it's pushing that health decline back. Like one of the people we had on said that it's not like osteoporosis is like the number one killer globally. It's like almost 20 million or something yearly. And he's like, it's not that you're not going to die with osteoporosis. It's that you don't want to die from osteoporosis. It's not that you're not going to die, like you don't want to die from prostate cancer, but you will die with prostate cancer. That's what you want. You don't want to die from kidney failure, but you want to die with kidney failure. It's like you don't want to die from all these conditions. But once you get to a certain age, your body's naturally going to have this. Like there's almost no stopping it, but you just want to die from other reasons, not from these diseases being so like hard on your body. Like I think that it's like every man above 50 has prostate cancer, but it just depends on who has a worse immune system that causes their body to actually develop, causes the cancer to be able to develop. Most people can be okay, but then there's other people that end up developing the cancer more and have to go through chemo or whatever to deal with it. Where it's like, it made a lot of sense. It's like your body is going to decline by the time you get those ages, but it's like onsetting that or making it well enough where the decline of that specific area in your body is not going to kill you. It's just still going to get worse because there's no stopping that side of things. And it is a different way to look at it. But I'm like, oh, it makes sense. It's like, I don't want to die from having a heart attack, but I might die with a little bit of a clogged artery. Like, yeah, that's I could see that. You know what I mean? So it's just like a different mindset, a way to look at things in your health. And it's like, I feel like I could be doing better, let alone like hormones, and how hormones have been so fucked with in general in today's society when it comes to environmental factors and toxins and pollutants and the foods we eat fucking up our endocrine system and our metabolism and how it functions. And it's like, in all reality, like, if you would have said it even 10 years ago, most people would be like, don't check your testosterone until you're like in your 40s. Now it's like, check it 30. That's probably a good time. But it's like, in all reality, for me, it's like, I might check it this year or next year because I don't know. It's just like, you don't know unless you, like, if you feel bad, like, you need to check it. There's not days I necessarily feel bad, but there are times I'm like, man, I don't think I should be as tired as I am, especially for being my age. Like, I handle myself pretty well, but there are times I'm just like, and it's not necessarily a thing. I could just be tired, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I was like, I had a terrible health as a teenager, and I know my estrogen was high. I had man tits, like I had man boobs, like it was that was for certain. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe my testosterone is lower. And maybe there's something I need to do about it. Like, I don't know. But it's like, it's something so important to men's health in particular, let alone women's. Testosterone is still very, very vital to women's health. But it's like, shit, maybe I need to look at this sooner than I expected. At least just to check it out. Like, at least get the numbers. If I'm sitting okay, I won't worry about it for a while. But it's like, most people aren't preventive when it comes to their health and well-being. And it's like, you know what? Maybe I should be. Like, I've always had a slight fear of doctors for some reason. Don't totally know why. It has to be something from my childhood. But it's just like, you know what? I should put that aside and worry about myself and my future. And that if I'm on it, I'll have a better life later. And it's just pretty crazy. But he's also had, I've listened to people now talking about like mental health more and some of the things he's talked about, or some people have talked about, is like childhood trauma. It's like, everyone has trauma. Doesn't matter what it is. There's really, really big trauma. As they said, capital T trauma. There's little t trauma. But everyone from their childhood has something that's in them subconsciously and is trauma for them. For someone else, it might not be an issue and they had a way worse childhood. But there's always something in childhood development that someone struggles with and causes issues later on in life. Me, I can't necessarily pinpoint it off the top of my head. Like, but I think having therapy eventually would probably be great for me, no matter what. I feel like compared to some, I'm decent at letting go, and I've realized that. I used to not be, but I'm better at trying to move on and recognize my emotions. I've become a lot more aware of myself over the years than other people I know, and I've been trying to grow as a person. Like that's my goal. But it's been such a wild ride the past week, listening to all these things and just trying to take in all this information. So if you're curious about this and wanting to better your health, just like myself, like, check out his podcast, check out The Genius Life. Like, it's absolutely amazing. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to miss an episode at this point because there's just so much information. There really is. But speaking of health and exercise, I got one more day left on this 30-day challenge of doing these burpees and squats and push-ups. And it's been grueling. Not necessarily, I don't necessarily know if it's the exercises themselves. I think part of it is the progressive overload over time, let alone the continuation of every single day hitting those muscles, not necessarily allowing them to fully recover. That's definitely become an issue. But, or let alone missing stuff. Today I did 275 burpees. That was hell. I did 235 squats with 40 pounds. Which isn't crazy, but it's a lot of numbers. I did 145 push-ups. It's a lot. So I'm definitely ready for this to be over. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about doing the 75 hard possibly this summer. And it's like that's a challenge in itself. But at least in that situation, yeah, I got to work out 2 45-minute sessions a day. But at least I get to pick what I want to do. But this has become such a big part, like the reps and the amount of time this takes up, that I haven't really been to the gym much in the past 2 weeks. Like this has been my exercise. Like I haven't, like when I go to the gym and I have done other exercises, I realized that there were certain things I did that detrimented me trying to do these exercises. And I was like, oh, damn it. So like, it's restricting me from doing stuff because like, oh, I want to deadlift, I want to bench, I want to do all this. But then if I go and do all those things and I cause these muscle groups to be sore by doing these exercises, and then I try to go do them the next day and it doesn't allow me to do them, I'm screwed. And then I got to double up, which I did do like the day after. And it's just like, so I haven't been able to do much in the gym. Like there's been a few things like with back and buys and a little bit of core that I've done. But other than that, I haven't done a lot in the gym recently, and it's because of this. So I'm like kind of ready for this to be over so I can get back into the gym and actually do the shit I want to do, because it's just, it's a lot. I'm definitely the type of person I rather do weight over reps. Let alone I'm not a big fan of cardio, but yeah, I definitely prefer doing weight over reps. Like high reps is just it hits you in a whole different way. But no, just some of these podcasts I find absolutely fascinating, and the amount of information that's available today on the internet. Like that's one thing, as someone that's come up as the internet has grown and got into it at the age I did, and it didn't necessarily take over my life. Like it's definitely had a wild impact, but just the access to information is the one thing that I will always love, and especially for something like this, when it comes to just helping people and things like that. And it's just in knowledge, like between like Max and Huberman Labs, like his podcast, and just the amount of information of like scientists and neurologists and biologists and all these different people. It's like, wow, like it's crazy. It's like the only other time you would be able to get this information back in the day was read an article, read a research paper, like Google this on stuff and just like read articles. Or if you actually talk to a neurologist, or you had a friend that was a neurologist, you're asking them these questions. And it's like nowadays with the internet, like people make connections, and then they can just have these conversations and record them and ask the questions that you might want to know the answers to, and they get the answers for you. And it's just kind of wild, but I love it at the same time. Like it's absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to keep getting more of his information. I mean, I bought after listening to a couple of those podcasts, I already bought 2 books from 2 of the authors that he had on. So I think it was like Mark Hammond and Dave Asprey. Asprey? I don't know. But it's crazy to think about, and also just like it still just fascinates me with the complexity of the human body. And so listening to this podcast and understanding different mechanisms in the human body is absolutely insane. And it's just like, we are so complex and we still don't know everything. And it's like more and more information comes out every year. And it's just crazy to think about. It's like, what information are we going to have in the next 30 years? It's like, I'm 20. What are we going to know when I'm my dad's age? Like, what technology are we going to have? What are we going to know about the human body? What's going to change? It's like, maybe some of the stuff people are doing now, it's like, oh, it's not that complex. Maybe you can do this. Like, it's just so crazy. And like biohacking and how to optimize your body to get like the biggest results from the least amount of work, because humans are naturally lazy. Like his book that I want to read is pretty interesting because it makes sense. Humans are naturally lazy. Like he's like, people created baking soda and these things because they didn't want to watch bread rise. They created these other inventions because they didn't want to do as much work. He's like, the reason we've been able to innovate and create and do all these things is because we are naturally lazy, and our nature wants us to conserve as much fuel and calories and stuff as we can. We don't want to overexert ourselves. And like, that's what we naturally do and our brain wants to do. We want to be lazy. So he's like, all right, when you're trying to get people to optimize your health, don't tell them to go work out 15 hours a week and do this and have a really, really restrictive diet and completely cut things out and do certain things. It's like, there's things you can do to a minimum level that can have a very large impact on people's health and can make changes without putting in as much time and effort. Not saying effort is not needed, but ways to do it that can make it more available for someone to get into. And I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of fascinating, and it makes a lot of sense. So there's so much I still want to learn. I can't wait to finish the Why We Sleep book, let alone the books I've bought and all the other books I have in my library. But I think that is going to call it for this week. I really didn't have a lot planned. I'm sorry this is also coming out late. But if you did enjoy and you can't wait to find out more after I find out more and possibly talk about this with other people eventually, please consider like and subscribing. But I guess I'll see you guys all next week. And just thank you for listening if you're still here. And I hope all you guys have a great week. And focus on yourself. Focus on your health. Take in information. Optimize your health. Like, do what you can, because this is what you got. This is your biological vehicle. This is what gets you around. Treat it well so you can live a happy, healthy life. And I'll see you guys all next week. Peace out.